Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to our Together in Parkinson's monthly conversation, where we bring you the latest research, lifestyle tips, and information about improving quality of life with Parkinson's. My name is Eileen Lynch. I'm the executive director at Parkinson's Resource Organization. And today we will be talking about nutrition. We all know that eating healthy is good for you. With Parkinson's, eating healthy is more than just a good idea, though. It can actually help ease Parkinson's symptoms and improve quality of life. And getting the right balance of nutrition in our body, it really can determine disease outcomes in a significant way. Nutrition is definitely right up there with exercise, medication management as one of the core tools of living well with a neurodegenerative disease. But what does it mean? When we're juggling doctor's appointments, when we're juggling off periods, family life, it can be really hard to develop a nutritional plan that balances the body, that nourishes you, and that actually tastes good. Tonight, we have Natalie Gruneberg, MS, RD, FAND, a clinical registered dietitian at Rehabilitation Hospital of Southern California, here to break it all down for us. So, Natalie, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. And I'll have you go ahead and introduce yourself. Maybe you can tell us what all those letters after your name mean to kick it off.
Okay. Hi, thank you, Eileen, for having me. I am a clinical registered dietitian. My master's is in human nutrition, which is the MS. The RD is my registered dietitian. And because I've been around a while, I earned the FAND, which is a fellow of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. My specialty is healthy aging, but I have a wide career variety going. I've done everything from critical care to COVID management to congestive heart failure, wounds. I taught at a university for 4 years teaching future dietitians. So I kind of run the gamut of all of it, but my love is healthy aging. And I think there's so much to be learned about us as we age. Every continuum has a nutrition component to it. And as we get past the age of 50, certain things in our body happens. So whether you have some kind of an illness or a chronic condition, it still matters what you're eating. For example, a lot of us will have a diagnosis of something past the age of 50. So when we look at deficiencies, for example, we lose something called intrinsic factor in our intestine, which then puts us at risk for B12 deficiency. And with that comes with iron deficiency. So now let's fast forward to our topic tonight, Parkinson's, which also puts us at risk for iron deficiencies and B12 deficiencies because our gut's not working well. And now we have also another condition attached to it. So with that being said, speaking directly about Parkinson's and about healthy aging, the best diet we can follow is the Mediterranean diet. And what that is just so well studied. If you are contemporary and you're watching influencers like TikTok or Facebook or some other social medias, if you're into that, not all that stuff is evidence-based. I, as a registered dietitian, have a code of ethics that I have to present evidence-based information. And for the Parkinson community and every other healthy aging community, the Mediterranean diet is the one that the doctors totally support. So
I brought up that point exactly. What we see and read and hear about online sometimes sells this best case scenario because what they're also trying to sell is a book or a bottle of pills or a very expensive dropper of oil. And with Parkinson's, we often talk about staying hopeful, hope and courage, that we hope there's a cure coming down the road. We hope that the symptoms that scare us the most might never happen to us, or that we have the strength to deal with them when they come. And so there's a curiosity that comes along with that. Hope is friends with curiosity. But, something we emphasize a lot for our constituents, and I'll do it one more time, when you are adding a supplement or a vitamin or even a new, component to your diet, it's always a good idea to check with your doctor, to discuss that with your doctor, because even food interferes with medication. So Natalie is a great example of someone who has gone to quite a lot of school to learn about all of this and to get those licenses. So just another friendly reminder to our listeners to really discuss your entire treatment plan, including the nutritional components, with people who have the certifications to help you out. So, Natalie, I did interrupt you, but you were talking a little bit about the Mediterranean diet in particular. What makes that so great for people with Parkinson's and people who are aging?
Sure. Let me just backtrack to something you said that I totally want to just reemphasize. It is incredibly important for you to speak with your doctor about every vitamin, mineral, supplement you're taking. For example, say you're into, because as we get older, we need more protein in our diet, unless the doctor says no because of your kidney function or whatever. But when you start adding protein supplements and you're on Cinemet, or any other Parkinson medication, that interferes with it, and you have to separate it out 1 to 2 hours. So just slugging back a protein shake and then taking your medication is not a good idea. So it's really important your doctor knows what you're taking, even down to a grocery store protein shake. So I don't mean to like backtrack a little bit, but that is such an important part of your treatment plan, is to know when to take things. But your doctor or your healthcare provider, whoever that may be, really needs to know each and everything, because there are so many drug interactions out there, we can't name them all, across all disease states. And so when your doctor doesn't know you're taking something, it can throw your whole treatment plan off and put you at risk for either getting worse or getting sick. So I really encourage you, just as Eileen did, to speak with your doctor about it. So back to the Mediterranean diet. Why is that so important? It is a whole food, not Whole Foods the store, but whole food, less processed. We want to add in more fruits and vegetables. For example, berries are really important for cognitive health in Parkinson's disease, as well as nuts, walnuts, pistachios. All those whole foods are really important in your diet, because what you don't want to do is put yourself at a deficiency. Because when you have any kind of chronic disease, whether it's Parkinson's or heart disease, diabetes, nutrition plays that much of a role in it. So we want to have lean proteins. We want to avoid fatty foods, fried foods. So lean beef, fish is great because of the omega-3s in it. Chicken, poultry, turkey's coming Thursday. Have your turkey, enjoy your day, but, kind of realize, pay attention to when you're taking your medication, when you're eating the turkey too, because that's a huge protein source. So we want to make sure you got a good balance of fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, avoiding, very fatty foods are just not good for us. We want to avoid constipation, so make sure you're getting enough fiber. And with that, you need to have enough hydration. So drinking water, drinking non-caffeinated beverages will help, unless your physician says ease up because of other issues. But straight across the board, hydration and fiber go together, because if you don't eat enough fiber, I'm sorry, if you don't drink enough water and you eat a lot of fiber, you're going to get constipated, which can happen in any kind of disease state, in particular, something like a disease like Parkinson's, because everything slows down, everything's like out of sync. And we want to keep the bowels moving, because we don't want the gut to be out of balance, because our gut microbiome affects our brains. And that is something that's heavily studied right now, is the microbiome affecting our brains. And here now, if you have a diagnosis of Parkinson's, we want to keep our brains as nourished and healthy as possible.
We know that with Parkinson's, the gut microbiome profile for a person with Parkinson's is different from the microbiome profile of someone without Parkinson's. And with Parkinson's, there's a lot of research that indicates that there's a higher density of some of those quote unquote bad missing the word, I guess, the bad components of the microbiome. So things that can cause inflammation or trouble within the gut. So whether, it's a chicken and the egg situation, I think right now, but whether Parkinson's causes the microbiome or whether microbiome causes the Parkinson's, people with Parkinson's are dealing with a slightly more complicated gut microbiome to begin with. So again, this is where nutrition, we do talk about nutrition a lot. It's eating healthy, yes, but it is really at a micro level as well as a macro level, how managing these systems, how complex these systems are, and how managing even one of the systems like your gut can help with the rest of your systems, like your brain health, like your constipation, and even like your balance and your energy levels and your ability to walk and get through your day.
Right. And that's where, a good balanced diet helps with all of that because it has been shown that it can slow the progression of Parkinson's by having a really good nutrient dense diet. It does make a difference. I've seen it, firsthand. I worked in critical care. I worked in acute care. I worked in long-term care. I've seen the whole gamut. And it really is amazing that patients with this, because one thing with Parkinson's that you have to be careful with is that you get enough calories. If you lose your appetite, you still have to find ways to get the calories and proteins in because what you don't want to do is start with weight loss. Because we start becoming malnourished, your weight will come down. You're then more prone to other things like pressure injuries and skin breakdowns and more confusion and off balance. And we don't want that. We don't want to see you falling because, as we get older, every fall is a risk for a broken bone. And we don't want to see that. So it's really important to make sure we're hitting all our targets on our macronutrients. We want the good fats, the avocado oils, olive oils, avocado, nuts, seeds, things like that. We want the good carbohydrates, whole grains, things that our body can really source nutrients from. That's what we're looking for. And then, of course, the proteins we talked about. But like I said, you need to kind of balance out your medication with if you're going higher protein because muscle loss, sarcopenia is a very big problem as you get older, no matter what conditions you have. If you're not working those muscles and with your doctor's permission, move. Whatever the doctor says, just move, whether it be light weights, whether it be chair yoga, whether it be taking a walk. You don't have to be hardcore, go to a gym and bench press. It could just be a walk around the neighborhood. But the more we move, that also helps our brain because we're using up energy and your brain functions on carbohydrates. You need 130 grams of carbohydrates for your brain to function. So if you're starting to go, oh, I'm going to go because this person on TikTok said I'm going to go low carb because that's going to cure my Parkinson's disease, it's not right at all. You need carbohydrates and make them healthy carbohydrates, not junky carbohydrates. So a whole food or a brown rice, even white rice, pastas, potatoes. People are so afraid of potatoes. I don't understand it. I have people telling me just yesterday, I'm not going to give my husband potatoes. Why? Why can't he have a nice baked potato, with olive oil and a little salt and pepper on it? It's a perfect side dish or even a meal if you add some protein to it, some grilled chicken or whatever. I don't understand the potato thing, but whatever.
And with foods like potato, correct me if I'm wrong, but the skins have a lot of nutrients too, right?
Yes, most vegetables should be not peeled because that's where the nutrient is. Even an avocado, if you're going to cut open this, I just recently learned this. When you cut open an avocado, scrape under the skin because that's where most of the nutrition is. Isn't that interesting? I thought that was interesting. But don't be afraid of eggs. Don't be afraid of the good proteins. If you're not hungry, you're feeling kind of, off that day, because every disease has off days, and that's okay. Nourish your body then. Even if it's something as a scrambled egg and a piece of whole wheat toast, it's better than nothing. And, that's what I try to encourage. Smaller meals, more frequent to get the calories and the macros in. The macros being carbohydrates, protein, and fat. Water is also a nutrient that we absolutely need, unless your doctor says no. Now, another problem with Parkinson, it could be low blood pressure. So with your doctor's permission, make sure you add a little more salt in your diet. That's an important thing to think about. Maybe you're going too low salt and your blood pressure is dropping. Because with every one of these diseases, whether it's Parkinson's or cardiac or diabetes, the whole dynamic is changing. It's always changing. It's not like when you were, a kid and, you were growing. Now you got other changes going on. And it's important that you nourish those changes. So adding, the fresh fruits and vegetables, I'm a very big proponent of as many vegetables as you can possibly eat. And when you eat them, don't bread them, fry them, steam them or bake them or saute them and add them in to everything. You could have a plate of pasta, load it with veggies, load it with lean proteins. It's a wonderful meal. If it's too much at once, because that's what I see sometimes presenting is it's too big. So break it up. Have half today, have the other half for lunch tomorrow, but always be planning. I suggest strongly plan your day. Eat a lot of richly colored fruits and vegetables. You got your purples that have your anthocyanins in it. That be like your beets or your red cabbage. You've got your carotenes like your carrots, your squashes. Right now, the store's loaded with squashes. So good for you. And they're so easy to make. Always just throw them in the oven and bake them. And then they're easy to cut because that's, the problem with squash. It could be really hard to cut, but poke some holes, throw them in the oven. They'll be easy to cut, scoop them out. You've got a wonderful side dish or a main meal, but go for the color.
What is it about those deeply colored fruits and vegetables that is so good for you?
They're loaded with something called antioxidants. And what those do is go after the free radicals. We are all bombarded with toxins in our day, whether it be our air or what's in our food, pesticides, things like that. There is some research that organic is really a good option if it's affordable, because it can be pricey. For Parkinson's because of the pesticides that creates all of this. Still out there. It's still just being looked at, but I just looking up information for tonight saw that and I thought that was interesting. But
I know also that there's research linking highly processed food to Parkinson's. A much larger conversation probably for another day about the gut-brain connection and the way the nervous system interacts and all that. But there is some pretty definitive research that people who have a diet that's high in processed foods, like the fast food or the frozen meals, things you get in the center of the store, have a higher incidence of Parkinson's than people who shop kind of the borders of the store, the fresh fruit, the fresh meat, the fresh vegetables, foods that you actually have to pull together and prepare. But it makes a difference, and adding in that organic layer, absolutely. We know that there are pesticides being used in the US that are linked to Parkinson's.
right. And that's the key is kind of plan it out. Some fruits and veggies are more sprayed than others. So whatever you eat the most of, if you budget allows, definitely choose organic. It doesn't have to be everything has to be organic, but if you eat a lot of any one thing, you might want to consider it. Another great food for easy, you're not feeling great, you're not up to cooking so much, are canned beans. They are a fantastic source of protein and carbohydrates, especially lentils, because they're just so good for you. Soybeans are the only bean that is a complete protein. So you can add edamames in. They even have edamame spaghetti. They have things like that, easy peasy to prepare because, when you're not feeling great, the last thing you feel like doing is standing at the stove. So that's when you start thinking drive through, frozen dinner, something like that, which is so not good for anybody. I really, really encourage my patients and clients to stay away from all that processed food and try really hard to you can be something as simple as buy a bag of plain frozen vegetables. If you don't feel like cutting and whatever, a bag of frozen veggies and, you know, pan fry a piece of chicken and you got a meal. You can even buy the pouches of cooked rice. I mean, there's lots of ways to get a nourishing meal without a ton of cooking if you're not up to it and you don't feel like it. Because a lot of my patients that have some sort of a chronic illness don't really want to be standing at the stove, but they want to eat healthy. So let's take advantage of what we can do versus a frozen dinner, which can be 700 calories, tremendous amount of sodium, and really not a lot of fiber. I'm not bashing the industry. I just think for somebody who has a chronic, but let's backtrack to our time in our 20s and 30s. I just read this most interesting study and a pretty good sized study that said what we did in our 20s and 30s is going to influence it 50 plus. And
Oh,
that's exactly what I'm seeing now. People that are coming in with different illnesses, um, because they weren't like mindful. But labels didn't come out to the early 1980s. So we didn't really know. So now we know. There's no excuse. Now we know. And the labels just changed. And what we want to do is make sure we're not eating too much added sugar. That's another thing. So say you love yogurt, great for you, but look at your brand, because every 4 grams of added sugar is a teaspoon of sugar. So you're best buying some plain Greek and throw some berries in there. There's a fabulous light meal that gives you a ton of nutrition, get your protein without, all the processed stuff in it, because not all yogurt's healthy, for example. So pretty much the Mediterranean diet is just as unprocessed as you can get it. And, you know, you can get a lot of nutrition out of whole food versus
I
processed.
want to pause on the sugar for just a quick moment because people with Parkinson's often experience sugar cravings.
Mhm.
This may be related to the dopamine deficiency. It could be related to like a side effect of some of the medications we take. But there is a sugar craving. But at the same time, often your doctor will advise you, just like Natalie did, to avoid sugar. Sugar has been shown to increase cognitive symptoms with Parkinson's, like dementia, forgetfulness, and confusion. So it's something that people with Parkinson's both crave more intensely than others and experience an actual advancement in or more severe side effects and symptoms of Parkinson's when they eat it. So this is, I mean, just like Natalie said, even when you buy canned vegetables, there's often sugar in those. So take a look at the ingredients on the can and decide maybe frozen is the better move in that case.
Yeah, and the way I tell people is fresh is always best. Frozen is second, because frozen veggies without sauces and all that other junk on it, just a plain bag of frozen veggies, were frozen right after harvest. So the nutrition's still there. Canned is a great third option if that's all you want, but probably got to rinse them because of the salt in there, and also could be sugar. So the problem with sugar is, yes, it's probably a dopamine effect of the disease and or medication. And with sugar, the way it works in your body, when you have something that's high sugar and then the sugar drops, your body wants more. So that's why the cravings keep happening and you're wanting more and more sugar. And now we know that's detrimental for everybody, but in particular Parkinson's, because we don't want all that sugar. So get something unsweetened and put in your berries, put in something, or even if you want a little teaspoon of honey, you're in control then. See, every time you buy something fresh and unprocessed, you're in control of what you add to it, whether it be salt or sugar, seasonings, um, things like that. That's why I really encourage people to go to farmers markets, because you can buy, if you don't need a lot, you can buy one or two. You don't have to buy the whole bag. We've got great farmers markets around here. And it's a great social thing too, because you get to know the farmers. You get to know where your food comes from. How awesome is that? Knowing where your food comes from. Because when you go to the grocery store, if it's not, doesn't say local, it could have traveled, the nutrition goes down. So the most nutritious is farmers markets. And, it's just amazing the difference in taste. But if that's not available to you, definitely as much unprocessed foods as you can get is really the key, which is what the Mediterranean diet is.
Yeah. Great point on the farmers markets. Added advantage there. You're often walking around a little bit more. You're exploring the stalls, maybe circling back to the, kale that you liked at the previous stalls. So you're getting a few more steps in. And Natalie mentioned exercise earlier. One quick point to add on to exercise: it increases your appetite. So people with Parkinson's sometimes don't experience hunger as much, and it there's a lot of nerve signaling disruption in Parkinson's. So maybe the stomach and the body is not communicating to the brain that it's time to eat. We also know that with Parkinson's, chewing and swallowing are a challenge. And subconsciously, we start to eat less because it is more challenging to eat. So one of the recommendations to combat low appetite is actually exercise. You're hungry and your body will recognize it, and you will eat more.
Right. And with exercise, it's using up the blood sugar in your body, which then will make you hungry. So there is a whole, it's so dynamic. It's biochemistry, it's microbiology, it's all of that, all in just a couple of bites of food. You don't realize how much is going on once you eat. And that's why everything you eat, everything you drink, everything you consume goes to every cell in your body. So why not make the biggest bang for your buck and get the most nutrition out of it? Which is a powerful statement, because when you're eating junk, you're not nourishing your body. You're just, it's either a craving or whatever. And not to say you won't have cravings, but at least 90% of what you eat and drink should be nourishing, especially when you're battling any kind of illness. Just healthy aging as well is just making sure you're getting all that nutrition in to really give you a great pool of energy, you know.
I like the consistent use of the word nourish as well, which I think does get to the heart of nutrition. It's not about eating and, yes, it's about eating, but it's not really about eating. It's about providing your body with everything that it needs in order to, exist voluminously in the world. That's something that's important to keep in mind. If we think about what we eat as nourishment rather than as satisfying a craving, or it's 3 p.m. and I forgot to eat lunch, let me get some food in my body. It's not an afterthought. It's actually the groundwork upon our day rests. So Natalie, one question I get a lot from our constituents is about probiotics versus prebiotics, and I think this is one of those things that actually makes the rounds on the internet a lot, whether it's those TikToks or those Facebooks, that conflicting messages, sometimes that probiotics are going to, reverse your symptoms, or sometimes prebiotics, or maybe all or none of the above. What can you share with us?
Well, prebiotics are foods that lay the groundwork in our gut for the good bacteria. Not all bacteria in our gut is bad. We need the good bacteria to make sure we are healthy in our gut, because we are seeing so much great research on the gut and the brain. And that's, like you said earlier, it's a whole other topic, because that could take up hours, actually. There's so much out there of evidence-based information. But when you eat foods that are fermented, like sauerkraut, kimchi, um, things that tempeh, things like that are fermented, they lay a really nice layer of, like, let's just say, soil in your gut. And then when you eat probiotics, your yogurts, even if you take a probiotic with your doctor's permission, of course, that gives you the nourishment to let the good bacteria grow in the prebiotics. It's just such fascinating. It's a fascinating topic, but you can get it all from food if you plan your meals properly. But the prebiotics are the fermented foods, things like that, and the probiotics are like your yogurts, things that have lactobacillus in it and the cereus in it. So there's, lots of ways to get it through food. Kefir is amazing for the gut. Is it going to cure any disease? No, but it's going to make your gut feel better. And if your gut feels better, whatever you're battling will feel like it's getting the nourishment it needs, because our bodies run on our gut, believe it or not.
I do believe it. I do believe it, in fact.
People don't always, they're like, nah, it's not. No, it really, think about when your gut feels off. Think how you feel when whatever you have or have nothing, it doesn't feel good. And then it affects your brain. But on a cellular level, it does make a difference. And the average person doesn't know that, because that's like science.
Yeah.
You're studying it. It's just, how you feel. You don't know the science behind it, but truthfully, there's a lot of science behind it. And you're seeing much more of it. And I think we're going to see more of it as time goes on.
Well, knowing as much as you do about nutrition, I've got two kind of rapid response questions for you. First one, what is one kind of secret weapon food that everyone should incorporate into their daily or weekly diet?
I'm going to say two: beans and nuts.
Beans and nuts. Okay. And you already mentioned, I think, that soybeans are the most perfect of the beans.
Right.
Uh,
They had everything in them.
what are some of your other
They're
favorites?
just fine. The other beans are just fine. If you eat a varied diet, you'll get everything you need from them. The other beans don't have methionine in it, but soy does. But if you're opposed to soy, you don't like soy, the other beans are just perfectly fine. Just have like a whole grain with it or something. It balances right out. If you're eating a varied diet, that whole food combining thing, it's kind of old school.
Okay. Well, next rapid fire then. What's one common diet staple that you would love to see people replace or remove?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm going to say maybe not replace, but limit is red meat.
Okay.
I've read a lot especially with Parkinson's, that red meat isn't always good. It should be more plant forward in Parkinson's. So what that means is, no, you don't need to be vegetarian. No, you don't have to give up red meat. You don't have to go vegan. There's nothing extreme there, but just more whole grains, plant foods, things like that. Experiment with tofu, tempeh, things like that, because that's a good source of plant protein and reducing the red meat down. So I would say red meat would be my one thing. If it was a general population, I would say fast food. But for this population, I would say red meat.
Okay. I what myths are there about nutrition and aging or, nutrition in general that you wish people knew were myths or would like to correct?
That where myths and aging is nutrition doesn't matter. You know how many folks that tell me over the age of 75, well, I made it to this age. What difference does it make? It does make a difference. And that's the one big message I'd like to get, no matter how old, whether you're 25 or 100. And I've been meeting some 95 and 100-year-olds this week that are amazing. But when I talk to them about their diets, they have a really decent diet. And so there has to be something to it. So nutrition does matter. And even you're battling a disease or you just don't want to believe it, it really does matter. The whole food, plant-based nutrition just is so studied and so understood that it is important.
So if you were to walk maybe a Parkinson's client through a kind of approximate meal plan and understanding that you can't really do this without knowing a lot about their medical history and their own, goals, whether it's weight loss or weight gain or anything like that, just really broad strokes, day in the life kind of diet, what recommendations would you make?
Well, I would say start out with a decent breakfast, maybe a veggie omelet, some whole grain toast, maybe some berries. Say mid-morning, you're feeling a little hungry, a little Greek yogurt. It doesn't have to be a lot. See, the meals don't have to be a lot to be nourishing. Okay, so lunchtime comes, you're still a little full. How about a nice minestrone soup? Something easy peasy with some whole grain crackers. Because that's what I'm finding, a lot of my Parkinson's patients don't want three big meals. They want to eat smaller meals throughout the day. So how about a nice minestrone soup with everything in it, lots of beans and whole grains. And then dinner, it could be anything from like a little bit of pasta with veggies and a piece of salmon, or salmon and a baked potato and some spinach. We want to get those leafy greens in every day in some way, whether it be raw or cooked, even if it's a small amount, a half a cup. So all you need is to be considered a vegetable. So the recommendation is 5 or more vegetables and fruit a day. So a cooked vegetable would be half a cup. A raw vegetable is 1 cup. Not that hard to get that in if you plan a little bit in each meal. So that meal I just gave you exceeded that. And
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
good meal. So that's what I would say is get those omegas, get your leafy greens. The minestrone has the beans and a little pasta in there for filling, protein in the eggs with the vegetables. So you got all your food groups. And that was not a complicated, hard meal to make.
Not at all, but let me add a complication here. So let's say that this person you're advising has a lot of trouble with chewing and swallowing. what recommendations would you make for them to make sure they're getting that daily intake, but also not exposing themselves to any choking hazards?
Sure. First thing I would do is make sure their doctor's aware and have a speech pathologist do an evaluation.
Excellent start. Absolutely excellent start. And I hope everyone listening just wrote that down and underlined it.
That is so key because as muscles change, we want to make sure it's safe. So you can go for softer foods, soft and bite-sized foods. So, for example, the omelet, cut it up. If you haven't been deemed puree dysphagia, it's not like the whole
Mhm.
swallow it all. Say that they say, okay, a little softer diet. So soft scrambled eggs and throw, a cooked vegetable in there. And then lunch, the soup should be fine. And make sure the beans are cooked well and they're not hard, especially the cans won't be, or it's fresh made won't be if you cook it well. And then dinner, salmon soft, spinach, cut it up so it's not stringy, and mashed potatoes. I mean, I would say though,
Potatoes.
what?
To
Potatoes.
the potatoes.
Well, a dietitian saying eat potatoes. It's terrible. But I would say the most important thing is make sure a speech pathologist gets involved.
Yes. And for our loyal watchers or listeners, you know that in September, we had a conversation with a speech pathologist talking about intent and talking about the great benefits of speech therapy at every stage of Parkinson's. If you missed that, you can just go see all of our previous episodes on Spotify or YouTube and check up and watch that one, which is all about speech and intention. And intention plays a role in everything we do with Parkinson's, including eating, including the nourishment of our body, which is the word we're going to lean into today, the exercise, the way we time our medications, the way we arrange our day around rest. And nutrition is just another one of those places where we must put in some significant intent and some significant effort, because the benefits are there for the taking. The benefits are there for the taking, but you do have to put in a little bit of work to get yourself into the habit of the healthy eating, and also just the simple habit of preparing those meals instead of grabbing the frozen whatever it is. And I'm certainly guilty of that, but
Well, sometimes you just need something, easy to do. But I would like to share with any caretakers, spouses, children, with regard to swallowing. If you start seeing your loved one struggling with eating, pocketing food, coughing, please reach out to your doctor immediately because it could be a swallowing issue. And the last thing you want anybody to do is have aspiration pneumonia, which will land them in the hospital. And when you already have something you're already battling with, that could not have a good outcome. And we don't want that. So for anybody who is caring for someone with Parkinson's, if you notice pocketing, drooling, coughing, them not eating because they're having difficulties, please ask your doctor to have that evaluated because that's a big deal.
completely agree with you, Natalie. And can you explain what you mean when you talk about pocketing?
Pocketing, which means if they put some food in their mouth, chew it up a little bit, but then they pocket it in their cheek and won't swallow it because people inherently are careful. So they probably know inherent that if I swallow this, I'm going to choke. So if you see that, definitely reach out to your doctor immediately to have that evaluated and downgrade the food to something soft or pureed up until the doctor gives you permission to get the speech addressed, because that's where the danger lies as far as aspiration pneumonia, which could happen in any kind of neuromuscular disorder.
Well, Natalie, I'm really grateful that you brought up that point. I think it's very worth emphasizing. We're talking about nutrition. We're talking about all the great things that food can do for you. And there's a reverse side here when there's an absence of nutrition, and also with Parkinson's in particular. It's not as simple as saying eat your veggies. You also have to observe how you're eating your veggies, how your loved one is, and whether there's any danger in that. This is a chronic degenerative neuro condition, and it affects our movement, our ability to chew, and our ability to swallow. So please take care. Especially, we're going into this glorious season of eating. We're talking about Thanksgiving, we're talking about Christmas. There's so many goodies on the table, and yes, we'll look the other way when you eat a lot of sugar on, around the holidays. But take care of yourselves. Take care of yourselves, each and every one of you, because um, there's some inherent dangers that come along with having Parkinson's and eating. Natalie, in our final few moments together, is there anything we didn't cover over the course of this conversation that you would like to mention or make sure our audience knows about?
No, I think just to sum it up is just watch when you're taking your medications and having protein sources such as meats or protein shakes, because it will affect your medication. Please make sure you're getting enough fluid unless your doctor tells you otherwise, because that's important not to get constipated. But just go with such a good, I love that you called it a good attitude. And I think that's where if you can wrap your brain around, okay, instead of saying, something negative, say, I'm thriving with Parkinson's disease. That'll give you a better mindset and give you an option to plan. I would say plan your day out, know what you're doing, be active to your ability and with your doctor's permission as far as formal exercise goes. But plan your day out and just go enjoy. Enjoy. Don't get wrapped up into the whole, pity pool thing, which is so easy to do when you've been diagnosed with something. And appreciate each and every day for everybody, not just anyone with Parkinson's. Appreciate where you're going, but recognize changes, reach out for help because there's always help available.
There is always help available through amazing practitioners like Natalie, through the Rehab Hospital of Southern California, where she works, through Parkinson's Resource Organization. We have support groups all month long to address both the practical and the emotional aspects of Parkinson's. If you're struggling with that mentality of thriving with Parkinson's, well, come talk to us and we'll work on some daily solutions to address the symptoms that are causing the most discomfort in your life. And we'll work on getting you in community with other people who are navigating this. So you've got the emotional support as well. Natalie, thank you so much for your time today. We're really grateful. You went into amazing detail, but you also gave us some great hacks. I personally feel the need to go home and eat an entire bag of carrots, which I will be doing ASAP. But in the meantime, we're really grateful for your time tonight. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate your having me because I think this is a very important topic. And like I said, it's a passion of mine. And, I'm over at the Rehab Hospital. If you're ever over there, come and say hi. I'm there every day and I'm always willing to help. So
thank you. Have a wonderful weekend, Natalie, and a wonderful holiday season to everybody. For those of you watching or listening online, don't forget to like or subscribe so you can catch all of our interviews, like the one we just referenced about speech therapy, like this one with Natalie, and all of the great topics we have planned coming up. You can always reach out to us at Parkinson's Resource Organization, parkinsonsresource.org, or give us a call. We are here to help. You are not alone, and it is truly a gift to be part of this community. Thank you all and have a wonderful rest of your day or evening. We'll talk soon.